the grace that God gives. Amen? So that's what we looked at. And then we looked at the relationship, right, between freedom and constraints. Freedom and constraints. Because if it is in Christ that we are truly free, then in order to receive the blessings of freedom and all that comes within freedom, right, then we need the proper limitations and restrictions and parameters to guard us so that we can enjoy all the blessings that freedom offers. Amen? So we looked at that last week, and today we're actually going to stay in this text. We're going to unpack it a little bit more, okay? Because we hit this freedom topic from different angles, So let's go back to 2 Corinthians chapter 5. And we're going to pick up at verse 14 again and read through 17. And then we'll stand as we read God's word. You all there? So it says, for Christ's love, or for the love of Christ, compels us, or controls, or constrains us, because we are convinced that one died for all, and therefore all died. And he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who died for them and was raised again. So from now on, we regard no one from a worldly point of view. Though we once regarded Christ in this way, we do so no longer. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone, and the new has come. Heavenly Father, God, we thank you for your word, Lord God. And as we move into the part of this worship service to hear a word from you, Lord God, I pray that you decrease me to the smallest capacity so that you may increase. Allow me to be a free-flowing vessel, Lord God, that's full of your word, that pierces the flesh, that touches the heart. God, you being the author of life. We pray, Lord God, that you have an all-encompassing word for each and every one of us, that regardless of whatever season or phase of life that we're in, Lord God, that it's relevant for each and every one of us, that it falls on good soil. God, I pray that you not only preach through me, but that you minister to me as well. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. So last week, we looked at these particular passages, right? But the main point of emphasis was on verse 14, right? For the love of Christ compels or controls or constrains, depending on what version you have, us, right? That's what Paul says in verse 14, right? For the love of Christ constrains, controls, compels us. And what did we look at last week? That love is a verb. Love is an action, right? Love accomplishes. Love produces, love overcomes, right? Love perseveres, love does things. Love does something, right? And so that's why you see words like controls and constrains and compels, because Paul is expressing how true love has caused something and how true love has caused him to do something. Amen? So he's expressing that true love, it causes something, but not only does it cause something, but it causes you to do something as well. True love impacts your actions. True love impacts your words. And so if true love is having such an impact on your behavior, then that means true love is impacting how you think. If it's impacting his behavior, if it's impacting his words, his actions, right? You sum that up with one word, behavior, then that means it's having an impact on how he's thinking. So that means true love is transformative in that it reshapes you. He says, for the love of Christ controls, it constrains, it compels us. The love of Christ is governing everything that I do. The love of Christ has transformed my life. My thinking is different. And because my thinking is different, because I see the world different, because I'm living in the light, I'm taking in life completely different. I'm living in that light that Jesus Christ provides. Therefore, I see completely different. Therefore, what I do and what I say is different now. His love has reshaped me.
Yeah.
That's what Paul is saying. And so that's how we're able to move into verse 15 now. So we're focused on that for this week. Last week we looked at verse 14. But now we're going to move on into verse 15. Amen? Amen. So he says, and he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but they should live for him who died and was raised again. No longer living for themselves, but living for someone else. No longer living for themselves, but living for the one who has all power in his hands, who died for you. Amen? So here's the connection between our very first verse from John to today. He says, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free, and whomever the Son sets free is free indeed. Jesus says, I came here to set you free from the condition of sin, from being enslaved to sin, right? That's what Jesus came here to do while we were bound. Through his life and through his sacrifice, he paved the way for us to move into the space of true freedom. That's what it accomplished. And it's only through the Son, it's only through Jesus that we are no longer slaves to sin. Now get this. We're no longer slaves to sin through Jesus, but we're also empowered. Watch this. We're empowered to not live according to how we desire. So through Jesus, we're no longer slaves to sin. And we become empowered to actually not live for ourselves, but to live for him. Because of sin, we're born fallen, right? So we're naturally inclined to live for ourselves. We're naturally inclined to be self-serving. Right? But through Jesus, we've been given this lifeline, if you will, right? To not live independently of him, but to live dependently in him. That's what Jesus empowers us to do. That's what he said. I came to set you free, and whoever the Son sets free is free indeed. Sin will not bound you anymore. Yeah. Because now you're becoming empowered through me to not live for yourself, which doesn't free you, but to live for me. You get that? So now, as we're introducing this message now for the third week, something begins to rise to the surface as we're looking at verse 15. I'll read it one more time. It says, and he died for all. Right? He died for all. That those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who died and was raised again. So those who live should no longer live for themselves, but to him who died and was raised again. And we're talking about freedom. So for this message today, as we look at freedom, it's a loss of independence. He says, and he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but to live for him who died and was raised again. And for this week, it is looking at freedom through the lens of a loss of independence. When you think of freedom, what is it? We talked about the words last week. When you think about freedom, what comes to mind? Autonomy, liberty, choice, openness, and independence. Independence. So that's a completely different way of thinking, right? That's out of the box. That's a paradigm shift, right? That's a different mentality because that is countercultural. To think that you actually gain freedom by not living for yourself is a paradigm shift. That's countercultural. That goes against the principles that govern this world. Yeah. So last week, what? The message showed us the relationship between freedom and constraints, right? We went all the way back to the beginning, right? God created man. So we looked at Adam and Eve and how God created man to be in perfect relationship with him, perfect harmony with him, right? And it was through that perfect communion that man could live freely, right? And walk in the fullness of who he was created to be, meaning humanity. And so God placed them in the garden. They had freedom over everything. They had domain over everything. And then Jesus said, or God said to them, in order to maximize the freedom in which I've given you to live, there's got to be restrictions, there's got to be limitations. So therefore, it's this one tree that you cannot eat from. This one tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In order to maximize the freedom and live freely in me and enjoy the relationship and live out the way you were designed, a restriction has got to be in place. Parameters have got to be set in place to maximize everything that comes along with freedom. Remember that? What did we say last week as well? Whatever God does, because God is the author of life, because God is the creator of everything, whatever God does or whatever God says is built into how life works. You cannot escape it. And what did we talk about last week? You said even when you just look at nature, when you look, and we looked at fish last week, right? Now get this. I didn't expound on it too much, but get this, because we're going somewhere. We need oxygen to breathe. And a fish needs oxygen to breathe. But we live on land, and a fish lives in water. We both need oxygen to breathe, but we live in two different spaces. Right? We have two organs, which are lungs, that allows us to take in oxygen. Right? And we both need this. But we cannot do that in the water and be okay. But the fish can breathe in the water. And the fish can live in the water. Right? The fish, unlike us, has an organ called gills that allows them to extract oxygen from the water. So this is what they do. Get this. They open their mouth, they take in the water, right? And then they blow the water out through their gills. And as the water passes through, the dissolved oxygen goes into the blood, and then it goes into the cells. So it allows them to breathe freely, live freely, in a space that's completely different than ours. All because they were designed for that. So because they were designed for the water, they have to be restricted to the water in order to live freely.
Yeah, all right now.
And if you take them out of in the environment they were designed for, you destroy them.
Yes.
You take them, if you remove them out of the environment they were designed for, even though oxygen is out here as well.
Yeah.
They're not designed to take in oxygen, right, outside of water. They have to be restricted to water, to the environment they were designed in to be free, to maximize everything that comes along with freedom, to live fully, right? So think about us. We were designed to be in relationship with God,
Yeah.
right? And it's in that relationship that we find peace, that we find love, that we find joy, that we find happiness, that we find security, that we find fulfillment, that we find identity, true freedom. But sin took us out of that environment, destroying and severing our freedom. So now, because of sin, we're naturally inclined to live life a completely different way than how God designed, which ultimately destroys us. When we live outside of the environment that we were built and created to live in, which is God, we live life outside of God and in sin, and it destroys us. That's why we have so many problems. That's why we cause so many problems. That's why there's so many issues. Right? living life outside of the environment in which we were built to live in, that's a paradigm shift. So we're naturally inclined to live independently of God, leaning on our own understanding, being self-serving, but we were designed to actually live in him and abide in him and to depend on him. So that's winning by losing. It's a paradigm shift. That's winning by losing. Being free, having the victory, and all of the blessings that come along with freedom by losing independence. What does it say again in verse 15? Now you're going to start to read it and see it differently. It says, and he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves. Lose your independence for him who died for them and was raised again, because it's in him where you truly do have freedom. So Paul is saying this. He says, living for Christ is a loss of independence. Right? But that loss of independence is actually moving you into the space to where you are truly free. Winning by losing. It takes me back to Luke, and I think it's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I know for sure it's in Luke. Chapter 9, verse 24. It says, whoever wants to save their life will lose it. If you want to keep your independence, then you will not be free. Whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for my sake, if you lose your independence, right? If you lay down your life for me, then you will save it. For what does it profit to gain this whole world and yet forfeit your very soul? What does it profit a man to exercise free will and not make the ultimate choice that sets you free? What's the benefit? What's the ROI? You have free will to make all of the choices that you want. Why not make the ultimate choice that sets you free? Because the power's in your hands. And let's switch this to relational ties and put this into today's terms. There's a closeness, there's an intimacy in our relationship with God that's liberating. Would you agree? Right? There's a closeness, there's an intimacy about being in a relationship with God that's just, it does something for you because there's power in it, right? Because now you're in the locale of life, right? So it's liberating. You're in that space that you were designed for, right? To be in relationship with him. And in order to experience that liberation, there's got to be a loss of independence. There's got to be a loss of independence. You cannot expect a fruitful relationship with anyone if you're living for yourself. It does not happen. If there is no mutual sacrifice, if there are no mutual accommodations, if there are no mutual adjustments from both people involved in a relationship, then it will not be a sustainable, fruitful, loving, deep, and intimate relationship. It will be unhealthy, if you will. If relationships are self-serving, right? If they're self-serving, then it's incapable of becoming a deep, loving, lasting, sustainable, and fruitful relationship. It does not work. Whatever God does or whatever God says is built into how life works, which includes relationships. That means that loving relationships is what Paul is describing, because we are in a relationship with Jesus. That means loving relationships require a loss of independence. It requires that. That's a requirement. That's part of the criteria. Oh, this is what you want? This is what happens. This is what you want to get to? Well, this is what got to take place. This is what you want to gain? Well, this is what you got to lose. Right? A loss of independence. So get this. Get this. sometimes it may feel like, or if you're approaching this for the first time and hearing a message like this for the first time about losing independence, it may seem like it's dehumanizing when you think about, well, why are we the ones making all of the adjustments for this loving God? Why is it his way or no way? But whatever God does is built into how life works. Do you think God adjusts for us? Do you think God makes accommodations for us? What do you think? You don't think so? Anybody else?
He rewards us.
Let me go back. I'm going to give you the answer. If in God's word, he's telling us that in order to experience all the freedoms, right, all the blessings of a deep, intimate relationship, right, in order to experience the fullness of being in a relationship with God, then there has to be a loss of independence. In order to be free, there's got to lose something. In order to maximize and have a deep, meaningful, intimate relationship, then a loss of independence has to take place. Do you think God first set the blueprint? Do you think he adjusted and made accommodations for us, therefore, that's how life works? The answer is yes. Watch this. Watch this. I'm so glad I get to. Watch this. God, being infinite, adjusted himself into the context of humanity. He went from infinite to finite. He limited himself. He limited his power. He limited his energy. He was fully human, which means he had all the limitations we did, which means he adjusted his infinite self to us, to our context, to the context of humanity. I'm talking about a big adjustment. How do I take all this and put it into this? That's a big adjustment. That's a huge accommodation. That's a big change. And not only that, but he sacrificed as well, and he gave everything. So, I ask you again, in order to have a deep, meaningful relationship, a close relationship, a fruitful relationship, it has to be mutual adjustments, accommodations, sacrifices on both ends. So it's not the fact that it's dehumanizing to us, right? That God says that it's my way or no way, because actually, the adjustment has already been made. You get that? The accommodations have already been made to make it viable for us to be in a loving, intimate, liberating, fruitful, sustainable relationship, to actually be free, right? In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and that Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. Heaven and earth came together in the form of Jesus Christ. God revealed himself to man, contextualizing himself into a way in which we can understand. He revealed himself to us. God's revelation to man is Jesus. And he says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. Let's focus on the way. Because I made all of the accommodations, because I made the adjustments, I created a way, I created a bridge so that you can move into the space that you were designed for, so that you can be free.
Yeah, come on now.
Come on. Ah. I made the ultimate sacrifice. I made the huge adjustments. I took the infinite and put it into finite. I did all the hard work. I laid my life on the line. I made all of the adjustments for you so that you can move into the space. So whatever God does, or whatever God says, is built into how life works. God lays the blueprint. This is how loving relationships work. Accommodations, sacrifice, adjustments have to take place.
Yeah. It's true.
Woo! Oh, that's good. Boy, I tell you, thank you, Jesus. So when you realize all of the adjustments that God has made for us, when you realize all of the accommodations that Jesus has made for us, giving up his life so that we can have life, being giving up your independence, you become okay with that. Because it's giving up the independence that actually moves you into the space of true freedom. Wow.
Yeah.
Now get this. You know what keeps us from being able to have these intimate, close, meaningful, deep relationships? A lot of the times, people focus on the cost. Freedom costs something. Jesus proved it with his life. Freedom costs something. People focus on the cost. The cost can be a variety of things. It can be your time. It can cost you your ego, your pride. It can cost you to move into a space of being vulnerable. You may not want to be vulnerable. You want to stay guarded. You want to stay closed. It may cost you money. It may cost you convenience. But when the cost outweighs the desire to please the one in whom you are in a relationship with, right? Then you're going to prohibit yourself from being involved in a loving, deep, sustainable relationship. Jesus said, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. For the joy set before, it cost him everything. Cost him everything, and he still gave. Cost him everything, but he still gave. When you fall deeply in love, you want to please the one in which you love. You want to see them happy. You want to see them grow. You want to see them become all that they can be, all that they were created to be. Right? You want to see them maximize their potential. And you do things so that that happens. And you find fulfillment in doing that. Right? Because when two people are all about one person, it don't work.
Yeah.
Two people all about one person. That means you all about you and the person that you with is all about you. When two people all about one people, it don't work. Right? God is all, and because that love is so powerful and so transformative, Paul is saying, I'm all about God. My relationship with Jesus is everything. It governs me, right? It hems me in. I don't view things from a worldly perspective anymore. I see things for how they truly are. And I know what it's like to be loved now. And that love has had such an impact on me that it is shaping what I do. See, if it's one person that does all the lifting, if it's one person that does all the giving, and then the other person does all the taking, that's called a transactional relationship, which is not a loving relationship. The person that's taking is actually exploiting the other person's love. That's transactional. Give me, give me, give me, give me, give me. It's not loving, because there are no mutual accommodations. There's no mutual sacrifice. So, to shed light on this, if a person that you're in a relationship with has no say-so in how you live, then it's not an intimate, it's not a close, deep loving relationship. See, Jesus made the adjustments. He paved the way. So now we have to make those accommodations to enjoy the blessings and all the freedoms that come along with being in Christ. We make those adjustments to get out of that sin condition, right? We're empowered now to not live for ourselves, but to live for Him. And that moves us into the space, right? To be governed and guarded by His love. So it's a loss of independence. So if you profess Christ, but it's still all about you, you stop yourself. You prohibit yourself. You block yourself, right, from moving into this intimate space in which you really get to enjoy all the blessings that freedom provides. So as we're looking at freedom, freedom is not about, get this, freedom is not about, and I heard it put like this, and it's so eloquently put. Freedom is not about the absence of limitations. Freedom is not about the absence of limitations and constraints, but it's finding the right ones. It's finding the right constraints. It's finding the right limitations, those that fit our nature, and they liberate us. So for any loving relationship to be healthy, with Christ or with people, there must be a mutual loss of independence. But it's through that loss that we actually move into the space to experience all the blessings of freedom. So it's winning by losing. Amen? Amen. Let's give God hand praise for that.